Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 620. I'm Tom Cagley, your host, and today we actually have a co-host. Ola Omiyale joins me in interviewing her boss, Nalin Parbhu. Nalin is the founder and CTO of Infuse and useMango. We talked about testing and test automation, which is a passion for all three of us. We also explored the future of the manual tester. Nalin Parbhu is the founder and CTO of Infuse and useMango. Nalin's passion, mission, and vision is to enable customers to get the most out of their software. He has worked on hundreds of projects across the globe and has over 22 years of experience in software engineering delivery in a variety of roles. Nalin has a BS in statistics, computers, operations research, and mathematics from Queen Mary University in London, and did his postgraduate studies in advanced information technology at the London Southbank University. Despite his London education, Nalin proudly states he's a citizen of the city of Leicester. When not evangelizing from the pulpit of modern software delivery, Nalin is happily married with 2 children living in central London. He's also a rugby coach for Blackheath Rugby Club U11. Ola Omiyale, my co-host, is from a social science background and has started her journey with the software industry. Being a beginner and developing a career in selling test automation solutions, she's eager to learn new information, innovations around software testing. Are you ready to talk software automation? It's time for the interview.
Hi, my name is Ola Omiyale, and I'll be joining Tom in interviewing my manager, Nalin.
Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast. Ola, why don't you start out by giving us an introduction? Why don't you introduce our guest?
On this episode, we have an intelligent gentleman called Nalin Parbhu, who's been in the software game or industry for 20 plus years. And I thought it would be a great addition to have on this episode because he knows so much knowledge about software testing and test automation. And I was like, yeah, it'll be a good addition to have to one of your episodes. So, that is Nalin.
No pressure. Hi, I'm Nalin. I'm the CTO of Infuse. I am allegedly the oracle, as Ola claims. So I will attempt to be the oracle and allow you, the listeners, to make a decision as to whether I am all knowledgeable with my 20 and helpful with my 20 odd years of knowledge in the game.
So why don't we dive right in? And Ola and I are hosting this, so we're going to both ask some questions today. But just to get us started, why don't we start with the whole idea of test automation and why that's a business decision, not a methodology decision.
Historically, it's always been a methodology decision, and but software engineers would go out, develop some software, do a whole bunch of testing in a specific test cycle, and then say, right, at the end, we've got it stable, we've gone over budget, we've spanked the cash, and now we're going to automate a little bit to get some benefit. And I think the key thing around quality, test automation, which is all related to quality, is that it has to be a business decision. Businesses require, especially today and arguably even before, they need speed. They need time to market. They need to be there first with their product. They need to be advertising their product. They need to get those features out. And when they get those features out, they need to have a quality product. The product needs to work. It needs to scale. They need to get good feedback. And they also need to be able to do that in an effective way in terms of the way that they spend their capital expenditure. So all of these things essentially can only be delivered by doing things in a quality way, but also in a fast way. And a fast way requires you to do test automation. If you don't do test automation and you don't do things in a quality way as well, and when I say quality, that's around businesses defining their needs and their wants accurately. Of course, they will change their mind, and so they should. Businesses change, right? So So in this fast-paced, agile world where things change quite quickly, and 2020 has certainly seen a lot of changes, both from a society, government, software point of view, right? Suddenly people can't go to university, right? And remote learning, for example, right? Those decisions need to be made quickly. They need to be made clearly, and then they need to be implemented in a fast way. And then if they're implemented in a fast, inaccurate way, then you can automate those tasks, not just early in the life cycle, but also to deliver the life cycle and validate that the product is meeting quality. If you do that manually, then you've got a hold up in your effort. And if you've got a hold up in your effort, then you can't deliver it as quick as possible. If you do it in an automated way and you validate that quality quickly, then you can do more with the same labor effort. And in essence, for businesses, this is about getting maximum bang for your buck. If you've got 3 people and they're manually doing something and it takes them 3 days to do something, but all of a sudden it takes them 2 hours, then clearly they can do more work with the remaining 3 days. And therefore they can take on more backlog. They can get your business more competitive advantage. They can get more features of your product out. They can, if the feedback of your product is not good, fix those issues really quickly because they've automated that process. So test automation should be mandated by the business, in my view. And the other reason why it's a business decision is obviously we've got to a certain point, and a lot of businesses may be automating testing. But a lot of businesses I see have a big backlog of manual testing. And these are what you would think of are reasonably modern companies, right? Because not everyone is, Amazon and Facebook and they haven't got 40,000 tests automated doing it in 3 seconds and 300 releases a day. Businesses are now realizing, actually, I've got some really clever developers and I've got this thing working in smaller teams, but my holdup is my regression testing, and I've been doing it this way. And so the big holdup for a lot of these businesses is around getting that delivery quicker. And so those businesses need to make investments into test automation to enable delivery to be quicker. And again, the reason why they want to do that is because of time to market, it's because of the quality, it's to get more bang for their buck. And ultimately, IT engineers need to position that as being a business investment. So, if you speak to a CEO, I think, in my view, the modern chief exec or chief finance officer, they don't need to know about the details of test automation and scripts. They just need to know that automation drives them better business outcomes. It hits bottom line. It gives you more for what you're spending. It drives better return on investment. It lowers total cost of ownership. And those are sort of headline things that, a CEO and a CFO should be looking at. And that's why I think the choice to pursue test automation should be mandated from a business level. It shouldn't be given to IT itself, because IT will ultimately deliver stuff that will get them out of a hole. Yeah. IT won't deliver the business outcome. Always.
Before we go to the next idea that we want to pursue, is test automation a top line or a bottom line impact? It sounds like it's more of a bottom line impact rather than a top line.
I had a funny conversation, Tom, about 10 years ago with an accountant, and he said to me, "You're just OPEX." Yeah. And he was a Jamaican guy, so you're not a CapEx. Yeah, an APEX item. Yeah. And that was his thing, right? And we used to have, he used to give me a lot of ribbing, right, about it. And I was like, no, we improve your CapEx, right? So, you've got this capital. I go, you're getting more for your CapEx. And we spent hours on it. And I finally got him to agree. I'd say it's an asset enhancement item, right? Because when you're building your product, you're building a better quality asset, right? So you're improving the value of your asset. But it's also a bottom line thing as well, because obviously when you're maintaining your asset, and if you've got less to maintain, and then clearly I'd say it impacts top line and bottom line, right? It's not just the look of the car, but it's actually the servicing of the car as well, right? And it took me a long time to get Lennox to agree to it, but he did agree to it, right? But he agreed at the end. He goes to me, all right. He goes to me, you're a capex item, right? Because that was his whole thing, right? You're OPEX, so I need to reduce your costs. And I go, no, you just need to spend more on me, right? And it was always like, yeah. No, so I would say that, we're asset enhancement. We're not a nice to have, right? If you want your asset to last a long time and you want to get return on investment and you want to lower the cost of owning that asset, you need to invest in test automation. And that's clearly a top line item from a capital expenditure point of view. And then you need to maintain investment. If you've invested properly at the top end, then your maintenance and your continuing maintenance is cheaper. So it impacts top end bottom line.
Ola, you had a question?
Yeah, so I'm a software testing newbie, and I've been doing some researching out of office and everything. And even in the office, they've been great at teaching me software testing and everything. And there's always this onus on relationships, especially relationships between developers and testers, and this phrase called DevOps and how it's really important. I just wanted to know, how important are relationships between developers and testers? Is there rivalry there? Because what I'm getting is that test automation kind of not knocks out, but replaces technical individuals. So is there tension there, or is the relationship just as important? It's a long question.
So from I've been on both sides of the coin. So I've been both a tester and a developer, or actually a developer and then a tester. And I very much back in 1999, you were definitely not a planned tester. You're always an accidental tester, and I was no different. So when I was a developer and I wrote code, I had a quite good tester. He used to come up to me. He was always dressed in a black suit. He had the Blues Brothers shades, and he'd come up with his defect report. And he'd be like, I've got a bug on you. And he was actually a cool guy. And I had a really nice relationship, even though I was a bit annoyed at him finding bugs in my code, right? But he did it in a really nice way. And so when I became a developer, when I was doing that, then I became a tester, and I found my niche in writing code. And I started telling developers that there was an issue in their code. They were pretty hostile, yeah. And they would be quite rude to me. But the difference is that I knew what the bug was in their code, because sometimes I would look in their code and find the bug, and I'd say, "You've got a bug, and this is where your bug is," and that would piss them off, to be honest. Yeah. But the thing is, that got a bit of respect, right? So you annoy him and say, "Oh, this is what the issue is, and this is what you need to fix." And after you've taken a bit of abuse, they're kind of actually a bit helpful. You're not going, "Oh, okay, it doesn't work. This is why it doesn't work." You said, I've had a look at it, investigated what's wrong, and this is an area that you can fix. And if you can get that, then I know it will work, right? And so you gain a bit of respect, right? But as I got sort of promoted and worked with more senior developers, because I spent only first 18, 19 months of my life as a developer. As I became a more senior person in the testing world, I worked with more senior developers, and obviously the guys got a bit more smarter. There were some real smug and some real hostile guys, right? And I won't mention any names, because that's not right. But some people said to me, and I remember taking this the wrong way in 2001. Someone said to me that you testers won't exist, and I just thought, I took that as a bit of a direct attack, right? But I now realize that he was not being nice, but he meant that in a constructive way. But I think in terms of understanding developers and testers, I think the organization of the way software engineering teams have been set up is the thing that hasn't helped. So you've had developers doing development, and the business has always spoken to the developers, and testers have kind of been left out. And then the testers get told, right, do this testing, here's some requirements, and there's a bit of a hierarchy, right, within that. I think what's happened now is testers and developers are having to work together. Often, well, definitely not now, but pre-COVID, we were trying to work more together, and we were trying to work in co-located teams, right? And even during COVID, we're working in teams and a bit like this in the Zoom meeting. We're seeing each other all day, and we have to get on with these people, right? There's only 8 or 9 of us in the team. There's not 80 or 90 anymore in the team. So you can't kind of not get on. There's only 2 of you testers in the team. There's only 4 developers. If you fall out with your testers, how are you going to get anything delivered? So the natural shaping of a small team makes it work, right? You're not like just like a football team, and I mean that in the British way, not soccer, or soccer in American, but like a football team or a baseball team. You got to get on with the people, even if you don't naturally get on with them, to get the result that you need. So that will drive behavior. And the other thing that's happening is that the role of the tester is becoming a more quality type of tester. So testers have to take on more work because there's more backlog. Developers are using lots of automated tools, pre-built frameworks, pre-built components to deliver these packages. And then testers have no choice but to automate it. So I think, back in those days when I was a young tester talking to developers and helping them fix code and getting a bit of their respect, testers are having to do that. So I think there's still some way to go. I have been in some agile teams where, you've got some developers who won't write unit tests. I don't write unit tests. I write code. And these are multinational firms, right? So that you're still going to get that, but I do believe people are changing, right? And if people are not changing, then I think the people are getting changed, because I think businesses can't accept that, right? Businesses can't accept, I want to work in the way I done because this is how I did it. Yeah. If you didn't write unit tests before, then you need to write unit tests, right? And you can't, and then you have to write your code, and then you give good code to your tester, writes your automation effectively, and helps deliver that quicker. And it's a team, in a team of 7 to 12. That's a big win, right? And then the other thing that's happening is that businesses are actually putting business values to teams. So they're measuring financial output. Okay, what's the value of the productivity of this team that's giving me? And if it's delivering, is it helping me make more money? So smaller teams are also understanding that if they actually aren't working functionally, they're going to get disbanded. And ultimately, that's going to be job losses, right? So that's not the business saying we're going to fire you, but certainly people will be changed, right? Or they'll be dispersed into other products that'll work. So I think there is a bit of rivalry historically, especially, right? 20 years ago, but there's not anymore.
If we get the relationships right, what is it, other than the relationships, what's it take to actually get started and actually do test automation?
So one of the great things about working in test automation is, to get started in test automation, you really need business sponsorship. It can't be an IT-led thing because, the moment it's an IT-led thing and the business deems, something else is more important, it gets murdered, right? It's cut away. It's sort of as a nice to have, a cherry on the cake. So I think the key thing around test automation is that you need to have business sponsorship, and you need to build a business case, right? And so to build effective test automation, you need to articulate to your business stakeholder why they want to do it. Because the business stakeholder doesn't often understand it, right? They're like going, yeah, but testing costs me $20,000 a year. And I'm happy with that cost. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I get it done. If you can articulate it in terms of, well, I can do 3 times more work for that $20,000 a year, then they go, okay, all right, that is interesting, right? So it's about really, to get test automation started, you need to build the business case. You need to articulate that in a way that the business understands from a productivity standpoint. You need to be able to articulate what is the cost of an issue in production that I could have found with a test automation tool or test automation process. And then when you're building that business case, you need to represent it in terms of a CapEx and OpEx. Okay. So what is the capital expenditure I need to invest in this in terms of tools, in terms of training, in terms of environments, in terms of test data, and change. And inevitably, when you come to that question, you then start to open up a can of worms, which is around, okay, I want to automate this testing, but now I need to have test data in a consistent state. So, I did a project for an armed forces organization. And we always knew when we did the testing which soldiers kind of had a bit of a funny record with discipline, right? So if you needed to get rid of someone, you picked someone with a bit of a disciplinary record and you done it. When you got an automation tool, it doesn't know that. So you have to do things like set up test data in certain states to be able to exercise that disciplinary test case that I gave you an example of. So inevitably, when you go down test automation, you build your business case, but your business case isn't as simplistic as a lot of the software vendors saying, to get some licenses, do a bit of CapEx, automate it, and look. Because actually what you're going to do is you're going to unfurl that the test data management process is a bit shonky. Yeah. You're then going to find out that the test environment process is also a bit shonky, right? And then you're going to find out that actually what is the real delay in testing is that, Dave over in Costa Rica takes 3 days to do his release of doing some dodgy banjo scripts that is written, right? And on a little notepad on the side of his desk, or worse still, is in Nilish's brain in Bangalore, right? These are the things that cause delay. So you've got to work out your CapEx and identify your delays. And test automation is a great thing to actually tease that out, because you're now saying this bit of the pipeline is perceived to be the problem. I did a bit of analysis at a company, a fleet management company, an American firm actually, and what I found was the issue was around they wanted to automate the testing, but then they didn't have test cases well written, so they had to identify test cases. Then this was around fleet management, so you had to get, if you wanted to do things like cancel a card, well, you can only cancel a card once, so then you had to find another card. So test data was, another issue, and that was in another state. Then the other issue was around environments. Okay, they wanted to run these automated tests and development, and in the system test environment and in the UAT environment. Well, guess what? There were slightly different versions of code in each of those environments. So just through trying to implement test automation, we ended up unpicking a report and going there actually, yes, you can do that. And they thought, okay, it's just going to be an automation person, right? Give me an automation person, 3 months, it'll automate, it'll be done. I said, this is what you need. And we disengaged actually after 15 days, because I just said, this is what you need to do. And I don't want you to think, okay, we're trying to upsell you some services, but these are your real problems. And then we can do some test automation for you. So then they went, okay, we need to get consistent environments. How do we do that? We need to codify those environments, infrastructure as code, make that all regular, get that to propagate into different environments. So the thing about to make test automation work, because I can go on about it really, is you need to have a business case. Your business case needs to consider things like test data, test environments, release management process. And in your business case, you need to put them all in. And then when you're doing your business case, you need to put in the benefits of each of those parts of the process into that. So it's not just a test automation person cost $500 a day or pounds a day, and now test automation is going to do it in an hour, so it's whatever $80. Yeah, no. What you found is actually you found a whole load of rubbish of a shonky chain of delivery, and you actually found $50,000 worth of problem, right? And actually, the implementation of your improvements, which includes test automation, is going to deliver $30,000 of benefit. And that goes back to the first question, which is the business case. The business benefit of test automation is that you're improving the whole chain, because test automation takes no prisoners. I need consistent quality software to run consistently to deliver you this in 2 hours. And if you don't give me that, it's not going to happen. And this is kind of why, when I look at a lot of ROIs, so I get told by the marketing team, can we write an ROI? I'm always a bit skeptical, right? Because I'm like going, okay, we can write a real simple one around tools and licenses, but we don't write about data. We don't write about the environments. We don't write about the release process, the configuration management. And so the real CapEx may not even involve licenses, right? There's a whole bunch of capital expenditure and efficiency up the chain. And so a lot of test automation initiatives get blocked because of that dynamic. And that's kind of what I'm finding in the market, yeah, in getting that. So to get it all working, on the assumption that you've got it all working, you built a business case, you get it all out, then you just need to have, you then need to hire a good team. So, I think I've mentioned previously to you all like that. A lot of people I meet have tried to do the test automation. They haven't got the environments, they haven't got the data, but they think, okay, let me just go on a Selenium course.
Or YouTube.
I'm going to go on Guru Night. Yeah, YouTube, Guru 99 or whatever it is. And hey, look at me, I found this free course, right? And they think, okay, let me do test automation framework in a day, yeah? Well, let me just get this robot framework and do this, right? And that's not to say that these are not effective ways of learning. They just don't work. You need to get experts in. You need to get people who do this properly, right? And I used a phrase a long time ago, you can't put hand grenades in a baby's hands. And, it wasn't well received because some people like babies. But the point is that you need to have trained people that can use test automation tools, and you're not going to learn that in YouTube. You don't become a brain surgeon in a day. You don't learn to drive Formula One in after a few YouTube videos. You might be able to work out how to change your battery in your car or something like that, or fix a light switch. But test automation, which is a big strategic change in the way that you do delivery, involves coding, change to your skills. It's not going to be done on a YouTube video. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. You do need to spend time. We keep on going on in sports about 10,000 hours to be an expert, but we want to do it in 30 hours of YouTube videos, right, and become a test automation expert. It's just not happening. So you need to get your experts.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. Nalin, you might hate me. When do you not need test automation, or do you just need it for everything?
If your software engineering process is so poor that you can't use test automation at all in it, you should abandon it, in my view. There are always going to be some things that are emotively going to be difficult to automate. We did a project once at an airport, and they were just doing functional testing of invoicing. Quite simple, create an invoice. But the invoices were for like £5 million, £10 million, £30 million. And they were doing, they were doing these big invoices, lumpy invoices, and then they were issuing refunds and doing credit notes, and they wanted to check manually that those numbers work. So that's not a bad thing, right? They were happy to have test automation to a point, but then they were like going, right, these are big lumpy numbers. I don't know why a tool couldn't do a comparison. I do believe calculators are pretty good, right? But they're the accountants, and I'm not going to argue with them, right? So they held the money. So they said, no, we need to check it manually. Yeah, I thought it was crazy, right? So they use all this software for automation, right, in accounts, but yet they wanted to check the invoices manually with a calculator. But I think the other one where test automation should be used in a process, but probably isn't fully appropriate, is where you got things like flight management systems, ships and stuff like that. You can do. There's an element of test automation and stubbing and stuff that you do in the lab, but then you've got to kind of fire the rocket in the air and look at it for real, right? And take diagnostics off that. But I don't think that there's. I think those are the areas that they are. And then if your software is so clunky and your process is so bad and so shonky that you can't use test automation, and there are lots of people doing that, then yeah, I wouldn't suggest using test automation. And I've been to customers where I've said to them, you shouldn't use test automation. And if your project's going up the wall, i.e. you're 3 months late into your project and you need to deliver in 2 weeks, and you think test automation is going to get you out that hole, that's not going to work as well. And customers have been very disappointed when I said I can't help you here. They've actually complained to our partners saying, "Oh, you sent this guy and he said he can't help." But yeah, that's not going to help you, right? If you're late in your project, you can't. You're going to be late. That's it. It's not going to get you out of a hole.
I mean, you have to actually think about this before you actually start. You can't just wave a magic wand at the end and make it magically just suddenly appear and work. True?
No, I agree. And this goes back to the business case thing, right? When you're starting off a program or a project on a product, and if you mandate as a business that test automation has got to be part of it, then that drives a set of processes that ensures that test automation should be successful because it's a core requirement of the delivery. If it's a decision made out of panic, which is what I've seen, or driven through a single parameter, okay, I want test automation just to reduce cost, then you probably should not use test automation. But when you say, when do you not need test automation? I think you need it all the time, especially in software. So to answer that question, test automation is critical. You need it all the time. But when should you have test automation is a different thing, right?
Before we start to wrap up, I have one more question. I think it's sort of the 800-pound gorilla or the elephant in the room. If an organization really embraces test automation, do manual testers still exist?
Yes, is the short answer. There will always be a need for manual validation. I think the need for test automation is to do the simple, repetitive, mundane tasks again and again and again. But where you have new features or risky areas, there's always a need for human eyes that machines have not taken on. So I think, test automation can take 80% of the mundane, boring, repetitive, error-prone effort away. And the human being, who's this intelligent person, can think in different ways, understands the process, understands the impact this has on a business, understands the impact it has on a department. Those are the skills that should be leveraged by the manual tester. So a good manual tester will understand that this will have an impact on another process, or on a sub-process, or on another department, or on the business, or on this team. And those things, you'll still need a human to interpret those results. You'll still need a human to explore defects in those areas as well. And where they're really complicated, you'll still need a human being for that. All you're doing is freeing up that human being to do better work, better quality work, more enjoyable work, less repetitive work, more interesting work, and arguably more respectful to their brains and minds, right? More intelligent work. Test automation should do all the stuff that is, none of that really.
If you woke up tomorrow morning and someone handed you a magic wand, a can of Coke, and a hamburger after your 7-mile ride, and gave you the power to change any two things that affect test automation, what would those two things be and why?
I think difficult one. I think one of the things that I see, and I've seen this on the last 5 programs, Tom and Ola, is I've seen a lot of what I call parallelism in test delivery, right? We're going to run end-to-end. We're going to run system integration. We're going to run UAT at the same time, okay? Which is fine, okay? We can do that, all right? It's aggressive, but we can do that. With good test automation, we can do that. What I have struggled with is almost every project for the last 6 years has struggled to understand the need that effective test environment management and good test data has on a program, especially when you've got aggressive releases, CI/CD running, setting up of those environments, managing those environments, tearing down those environments. So programs and projects don't understand the need for test environment management and good test data. And in my view, I'd love to change that because that impacts test automation in a massive way. And so inevitably, as we've got more experience, we have seen the need to be talking about these things as part of our test automation pitch, right? And the second one is a bit controversial. I've written a bit of a blog, and it's not a rant, but I started Infuse. It's not a pitch. I started Infuse to solely work in test automation, and I was a bit of a stubborn bugger, and I didn't want to hire 400, testers and do, the manual testing. I wanted to do test automation because I really, really, really believed in it. And for the first 12, 13 years of my pitch, I was, roadblocked by a bunch of manual test fans, right? Or what I call the manual testing fan club, saying it will never work. Our requirements are always changing. Software developers are always changing. The code is rubbish. The environment's crap. Configuration management is not very good. Blah blah. So I'd come up with all these roadblocks around test automation, Now, the truth is, I see the same people, and they're big fans of test automation, right? Okay, and they know who they are because I've told them, right? Some of them are in the board of the ISTQB, and I've called them out on it, right? I go, you've got a goal, right, to go out and put out a paper on test automation, right? So-called Mr. Thought Leader. So I find that bit a bit strange, right? And I know that you said about two things, and the impact of that kind of change in people, and maybe genuinely they've changed their minds, but I think they just saw the writing on the wall. Is the truth? Is that's resulted in a slightly dysfunctional labor market. So I have a lot of manual testers that now suddenly claim to be test automation engineers, right? Because YouTube and all that is all very good, right? And sadly, a lot of them are not being honest, and as a result, it's wasting a lot of our time trying to bloody hire people. Well, that's number one, right? That's one of them, and so we have to go through massive amounts of assessment to find the honest person who can actually do test automation. And so, and these are the same people who are anti-test automation. And Ola, one of the things is because sadly, I've been in this game for most of your life, right? So is that, and I've got this memory that sticks. I remember the names, right? So I remember the guy who was a manual tester 10 years ago, reapplying back to Infuse again, right? And I'm going, but you don't know automation, right? Well, how come you can suddenly write frameworks and code in C#, And I did for the first few times just say, okay, let's give them the test. The truth is they never passed the assessment. So, the impact of that is we hire a lot of younger test automation engineers who can develop into effective engineers. That's not to say I'm not ageist. I respect experience, and there's people that understand management and environments, stakeholder stuff. They're great. It grinds my gears, is I think the American phrase, right? That when I see these people upon, it's one of many phrases. Yeah. I think I saw it in American Dad or something like that, right? So yeah, it grinds my gears. It grinds my gears when they when these guys come out and start writing about test automation, and I do send them emails about it when I see it. So maybe they've excluded me from their LinkedIn posts or something like that. But So for me, in summary, right, I have test environments and a more honest labor market for testing.
Super. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I want to thank Ola for co-hosting with me. How can people continue this conversation? This is, there's been a little bit of controversy. There's a lot of intriguing, threads to pull here. How would they go about continuing that? And then why don't the platform will be open for you to pitch anything that you'd like for sharing all of this.
Yeah, look, I'm available on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to respond and take abuse if that's what you want to give me. Right? I'm sure you won't. I'm a very nice person. But yeah, no, I'm open on LinkedIn. The Infuse website, infuse.it, is available as well. If it was far too controversial, then Ola set this up. So have a go at her. She's young and robust and taller than me. So So that's number one, right? But yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to contact me. Nalin Parbhu. I've Googled it this morning as a result of someone doing some identity fraud on me, and I'm still the only Nalin Parbhu in the world. So So that person that opened a credit card account in my name, it wasn't me.
Yeah, that is that. Welcome to the 21st century. Aren't our lives wonderful sometimes?
Oh yeah, well, it's one of the good things, right? You subscribe to these credit bureaus like Experian, and they tell you, "Hey, you got a credit card open in your name," and I'm like, "Really? Okay, thank you." So that was my morning. In terms of the pitch, yeah, look, I'm CTO of Infuse and useMango. We have a set of mature processes around test automation. This is all we have ever done. We're passionate about it. We believe in it so much so that that we've been doing it for 20 years. And we didn't just get into it the other day. I've always been Nalin the automation guy. And certainly in the UK, I know people see me as that person. So, I'm more than happy to share ideas, tricks, guide, coach, and also take learning as well. Because although I'm a bit of an oracle, I'm not a know-it-all. It's still learning on the way. And in terms of the other side of it, we've got a product called useMango, which allows you to create fast automated codeless testing. So, the reality is that there's a world of testers out there. They are not able to, they're not automation people. And I recognize that. So, about 12 years ago, we set out to create a framework that these people can work with. It allows them to not code. It's designed so non-technical individuals can create robust scripts. There's a whole bunch of learning out there. The guys have been hard at work, taking lots of learning from my head and the heads in the engineering firm. So, you can start an automation journey with a free trial, and you go to usemango.co.uk.
Obviously, have that in the show notes.
Thanks, Tom.
In Reread Saturday news, I have taken the last 2 weeks off from Reread Saturday. A combination of household duties and work to be managed. I'll be back next week. In the interim, catch up on the reread, links in the show notes, buy your copy of Steve Tendon and Daniel Daron's Tame Your Workflow. Use the link, support the blog, podcast, and especially the authors. Remember, we are a proud media sponsor of Live at Manning event, Women in Tech. That will be occurring this week, October 13th. It's a free online conference starring women that are rocking the tech boat. Link in the show notes. We're also a proud sponsor, media sponsor of the Online Agile Summit. October 26th through the 30th. Link again in the show notes. Register and go and listen and get involved. The next Software Process and Measurement Cast number 621 will feature our essay on why Agile coaches need a code of ethics. It's a passion of mine. We'll also have a visit from John M. Quigley and the Alpha and Omega of product development. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet? If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?